Hello everyone, now let us discuss about drugs for heart failure part 2. In the current session, we will be discussing on positive inotropes which increase the cardiac contractility. Now coming to inotropic agents and regulation of cardiac contractility. The cardiac myocytes, they contract and develop force in response to membrane depolarization and subsequent increase in intracellular calcium concentrations. They mainly contract and develop force in response to membrane depolarization and subsequent increase in intracellular calcium concentrations. And most currently employed positive inotropic drugs and novel compounds in development, they act by increasing the concentration of free intracellular calcium ion. Based on their mechanism of action, we can categorize inotropic drugs into three categories. The first are calcium ion sensitizers. The next are sodium potassium ATPase inhibitors, and the next is cyclic AMP dependent inotropes. Calcium sensitizers are novel drugs and they sensitize the myofilaments to calcium, and they shift the sigmoidal relationship between free calcium concentration and the force towards the left. They mainly sensitize the cardiac myofilaments to calcium ions, hence the name calcium sensitizers. And we all know that sodium potassium ATPase inhibitors, the famous cardiac glycosides, they come under sodium potassium ATPase inhibitors. This sodium potassium ATPase enzyme, it pumps out sodium out of the cell and potassium into the cell. It pumps sodium out of the cell and potassium into the cells and maintains the steep concentration gradients of sodium and potassium across the plasma membrane. And the inhibition of this enzyme slightly reduces the sodium gradient across the myocyte membrane. Inhibition of sodium potassium ATPase, it reduces the sodium gradient across the myocyte membrane, reducing the driving force for calcium extrusion by NCX. And this provides storage of more calcium in sarcoplasmic reticulum and subsequently aiding the release of more calcium during the contraction. The next are cyclic AMP dependent inotropes. Inhibition of cyclic AMP degradation, especially by PDE inhibitors, it activates the cyclic AMP pKa pathway and other cyclic AMP responsive systems. And this results in high peak concentrations in systoles and thereby peak force. Peak concentrations of calcium in systole and thereby peak force. So the various classes which come under positive inotropes are cardiac glycoside, example is digoxin. The next are sympathomimetic drugs, example is dopamine and dobutamine. The next are PDE3 inhibitors, they are enamrinone and milrinone. The next are calcium sensitizers, they are levosimendan and pimobendan. So this is the overall pictorial representation of various positive inotropic drugs and their effect on cardiac contractility. The catecholamines, they are nothing but sympathomimetics. They act by beta adrenergic receptor. They activate the cyclic adenyl cyclase and which increases the production of cyclic AMP. Whereas PDE inhibitors, they inhibit the PDE enzyme, PDE-E3, which prevents the degradation of cyclic AMP to 5-AMP. So this also increases the levels of calcium cyclic AMP. And finally, the cardiac glycosides, they inhibit the sodium potassium ATPase pump, which subsequently increases the calcium ion concentrations. So the cyclic AMP activates pKa. This pKa activates a series of pathways which finally results in the increased release of calcium, which is very essential for troponin-myosin interaction, and this leads to contraction. And similarly, the calcium sensitizers, they sensitize the myofilaments. These are the myofilaments to calcium by causing conformational change. Thereby, they also lead to increased contraction. Now coming to cardiac glycosides, the first drug is digoxin. The class is cardiac glycosides and it is a positive inotrope. The mechanism of action is inhibition of sodium-potassium ATPase. This enzyme regulates the quantity of sodium and potassium inside and outside the cells. And this inhibition produces an increase in intracellular concentration of sodium and thus, due to consequent effects of sodium and calcium exchange, an increase in the availability of intracellular calcium, which results in an increased force of contraction, that is nothing but positive inotropic effect. The systemic effects on baroreceptors and the parasympathetic nervous system result in increase in vagal tone. The systemic effects on baroreceptors and the parasympathetic nervous system of digoxin, they result in increased vagal tone, and this can be useful in controlling the ventricular rate in patients with atrial tachyarrhythmias. Digoxin improves the tissue perfusion and withdrawal of sympathetic overactivity, that is heart rate and CVP are lowered. And the compensatory mechanisms retaining sodium and water are inactivated, which leads to diuresis and edema is cleared. Liver regresses, pulmonary congestion are reduced, hence cyanosis and dyspnea disappear. And digoxin is more capable drug in relieving symptoms of systolic dysfunction and restoring cardiac compensation in dilated heart and low ejection fraction cases. And all patients with low ejection fraction who remain symptomatic while receiving AC inhibitors or angiotensin receptor blockers plus diuretic plus with or without beta blockers should be treated with digoxin. Coming to the uses, the patients with mild to moderate heart failure with reduced ejection fraction who remain symptomatic after being treated with diuretics and AC inhibitors. Digoxin is the drug of choice for patients with mild to moderate heart failure with reduced EF who remain symptomatic after being treated with diuretics and AC inhibitors. The positive inotropic effect of digoxin will improve the cardiac output, resulting in reduced chronic sympathetic tone. That is nothing but baroreceptor reflex mediated, as well as increased vagal tone. This can help to reduce the resting heart rate. And there appears to be a sex difference in the clinical trials achieved with digoxin. In male patients, the digoxin has been reported to improve survival of heart failure with reduced ejection fraction if serum digoxin levels are relatively low. The next use is the rate control in patients with both atrial fibrillation and systolic heart failure, because it can be used to treat both the conditions. Ventricular rate, to control the ventricular rate in patients with atrial fibrillation and systolic heart failure. Coming to the limitations, the margin of safety is low, lack of effect on neurohumoral contributors leads to pathogenesis of heart failure, and the patients with preserved ejection fraction, that is nothing but diastolic dysfunction, they do not respond to digoxin or other positive inotropes. The dosage is as follows, and the full response is seen in 5 to 7 days. The maintenance dose is 0.125 to 0.25 mg per day. If there is inadequate response, dose is increased to 0.375 and 0.5 mg per day at weekly intervals. And whenever early response is required, a dosage of 0.75 to 1.25 mg spread over 24 hours to 48 hours is given. Coming to the next drug, that is dopamine. It comes under sympathomimetic or catecholamine. Uses are acute heart failure, cardiogenic shock, and acute renal failure. For the correction of hemodynamic imbalances present in the shock due to myocardial infarction, trauma, endotoxic septicemia, open heart surgery, renal failure, and chronic cardiac decompensation, as in case of congestive failure. These are some of the therapeutic uses of dopamine. And the use of dopamine in the treatment of cardiogenic shock, especially after a myocardial infarction, has been associated with a greater number of adverse events compared to use of norepinephrine as a pressor agent in the treatment of shock. use of dopamine is associated with greater number of adverse effects when it is used to treat cardiogenic shock. Coming to the mechanism of action, it mainly activates the D1 and D2 receptors. The dopamine is an immediate metabolic precursor of norepinephrine. At low doses, that is 1 to 2 mg per kg per minute, the mechanism is selectively activates D1 receptors in several vascular beds, especially kidney, and also activation of presynaptic D2 receptors can be seen at low doses. And this suppresses norepinephrine release and also reduces alpha adrenergic stimulation, especially in splanchnic and renal arterial beds. So activation of presynaptic D2 receptors in renal arterial beds, it leads to increased renal blood flow, and this is responsible for maintaining adequate glomerular filtration rate and diuresis in hospitalized patients with congestive heart failure with impaired renal function who are refractory to diuretics. And selective activation of D1 receptors leads to vasodilation. And at intermediate doses, that is 5 to 10 mg per kg per minute, dopamine activates beta-1 receptors in the heart. This leads to increased inotropic action and heart rate. And at high doses, that is greater than 10 mg per kg per minute, dopamine activates alpha receptors, leading to vasoconstriction, including the renal vascular bed. And high doses of dopamine may mimic the actions of epinephrine. Coming to the contraindications, dopamine should not be used in patients with pheochromocytoma or in patients with uncorrected tachyarrhythmias or ventricular fibrillation. The side effects are cardiac arrhythmias, dysapnea, nausea and vomiting, and headache. Pharmacokinetics are onset of action is within 5 minutes of IV administration. Plasma half-life is 2 minutes. Duration of action is less than 10 minutes. However, if MAO inhibitors are present, monoamine oxidase inhibitors are present, the duration may increase to 1 hour. Drug interactions are patients who have been treated with MOA inhibitors within 2 or 3 weeks prior to the administration of dopamine hydrochloride should receive initial doses of 1/10 of the normal dose. And the tricyclic depressants may potentiate the pressor response of dopamine. Cardiac effects of dopamine are antagonized by beta-adrenergic blocking agents. And similarly, haloperidol and haloperidol-like drugs, they suppress the dopaminergic renal and mesenteric vasodilation, which is induced at low rates of dopamine infusion. These are some of the drug interactions of dopamine. Coming to the next drug, that is dobutamine. It is a beta-1 selective sympathomimetic drug. The mechanism of action is, it is a selective beta-1 adrenergic agonist. It increases myocardial contractility and stroke volume, resulting in increased cardiac output. It also lowers the pulmonary artery capillary pressure. Coming to the uses, inotropic support. Dobutamine provides inotropic support in short-term treatment of patients with cardiac decompensation due to depressed contractility, resulting either from organic heart disease or from cardiac surgical procedures. And it is a drug of choice. It is a drug of choice in case of acute heart failure with systolic dysfunction. And dobutamine is a racemic mixture. The negative enantiomer is a potent agonist at alpha-1 adrenergic receptor and weak agonist at beta-1 and beta-2 receptors, whereas positive enantiomer is a potent beta-1 and beta-2 agonist, and it does not have any alpha-adrenergic receptor agonistic effects. Coming to the side effects, 10 to 20 mm increase in systolic blood pressure is seen. And the most common side effects of dobutamine are tachycardia and supraventricular or ventricular arrhythmias. In case of supraventricular and ventricular arrhythmias, reduction of dose is required. Coming to the drug interaction, do not add dopamine to 5% sodium bicarbonate injection or to any other strongly alkaline solution because of potential physical incompatibilities. It is recommended that dopamine not to be mixed with other drugs in same solution. Dobutamine. it is recommended that dobutamine should not be mixed with other drugs in same solution, and dobutamine should not be used in conjunction with other agents or diluents containing both sodium bisulfite and ethanol. Coming to the contraindications, it is contraindicated in patients with idiopathic hypertrophic subaortic stenosis and in patients who have shown previous manifestations of hypersensitivity to dobutamine. Coming to the pharmacokinetics, it is given parenterally. Onset of action is 1 to 2 minutes. Peak effect is seen within 10 minutes. Plasma half-life is 2 minutes. The principal routes of metabolism are methylation of catechol and conjugation. Coming to the next category of inotropic drugs, they are phosphodiesterase inhibitors. The cyclic AMP PD inhibitors, cyclic AMP mediated PD inhibitors that decrease the cellular cyclic AMP degradation and results in the elevated levels of cyclic AMP. This results in positive inotropic and chronotropic effects in heart and dilation of resistance and capacitance vessels, which is effective in decreasing preload and afterload. So PD inhibitors decrease both preload and afterload. Hence the term inodilator. And they are more advantageous than catecholamines in patients on beta blockers and in patients with high systemic or pulmonary artery resistance. Disadvantages are hypotension often is dose limiting, and tachyarrhythmias and arrhythmogenic effects are similar to that of catecholamines. The first drug is ambrinon or inambrinon. It is a selective PDE3 inhibitor. PDE3 isoenzyme is specific for intracellular degradation of cyclic AMP in heart, blood vessels, and bronchial smooth muscles. So, ambrinon increases the myocardial cyclic AMP and transmembrane influx of calcium. The cardiovascular actions of cyclic AMP dependent PDE3 inhibitors are: the cardiopulmonary actions are increased contractility and heart rate, increased stroke volume and ejection fraction, decreased ventricular preload, secondary to increased output, and decreased pulmonary capillary wedge pressure. Coming to the actions on systemic circulation, they are vasodilation, increased organ perfusion, decreased systemic vascular resistance than dobutamine, and decreased arterial pressure. Coming to the pharmacokinetics, it is given orally. Action lasts for 2 to 3 hours. Elimination T half is 2 to 4 hours. The adverse effects are tachycardia, thrombocytopenia, and slight fall in blood pressure, nausea, diarrhea, liver damage, fever, arrhythmias. Oral administration is abandoned as it results in the loss of efficacy and mortality. Increased rate of mortality in congestive heart failure patients is seen. Coming to the uses, it is used as additional therapy with digoxin, diuretics, vasodilators in severe and refractory congestive heart failure, especially advanced congestive heart failure, and it is used as short-term IV intravenous infusion. The other drug is milrinone. It is more selective for PDE3. It is 10 times more potent, short-acting. The plasma T-half is 80 minutes and is preferred over ambrinon, but it is restricted for short-term use only. The long-term use results in increased mortality. The other drug is enoxaparin. It is more selective inhibitor of PDE3. The plasma T-half is 2 to 3 hours. Coming to myofilament calcium sensitizers, examples of drugs are levosimendan and pimobendan. In some countries, the myofilament calcium sensitizers are approved for short-term treatment of acutely decompensated heart failure. Levosimendan is given in Sweden and pimobendan in Japan. Increased rates of arrhythmias and deaths are likely related to PDE3 inhibitory activity of these compounds. The calcium sensitizers, they increase the sensitivity of contractile myofilaments to calcium by binding to and inducing a conformational change in the thin filament regulatory protein troponin C. This causes an increased force for a given cytosolic calcium concentration, theoretically without rising calcium in cytosol. But increased myofilament calcium sensitivity also causes reduced dissociation of calcium from the myofilaments in diastole and prolongation of relaxation, which is nothing but the negative lusiotropic effect. This can aggravate the diastolic dysfunction and could delay the calcium release in arrhythmias. The other effects of calcium sensitizers are inhibition of PDE, phosphodiesterase, inhibition of production of pro-inflammatory cytokines, and opening of ATP-dependent potassium channels. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for further videos on pharmacology and other related pharmaceutical sciences.